One day, Thomas, Percy, and Toby were at the pub, but Thomas was cross. Why do I always like Thomas fan content? Because it's a surprise when you like it. But I'm the main character, so why should I have to suffer? Maybe because no one likes you. F you, remarked Thomas. Why don't you have another beer? It will drowse you comfortably. Toby was right. Thomas drowsed comfortably as the beer spread through his boiler. Then he set off to catch Annie and Clarabelle. James was later than ever at the junction. I'm sorry, Thomas, he puffed. I was held up at the station, and the viaduct made it worse. Don't worry, said Thomas kindly. We've had worse. I have a question, James. Have you ever noticed I always like fan content? Oh, yes. I don't think fans should keep making us suffer. That's what I said earlier. Have you ever seen Toby the Fan, the arcane merchant? No. Why? You are the first engine to fly. Are you f***ing kidding me? This is bullshit, said Thomas. Just then, Percy, Toby, and Daisy arrived. What's the matter, Thomas? Asked Daisy. Are you still going on and on about fan content? Asked Toby. Of course, agreed Thomas. Where did this fan content bullshit even come from? Well, it was 2 days ago. I was watching YouTube with Edward, and he showed me all sorts of fan content, even outside Thomas content. I was just about to catch Annie and Clarabelle when something caught my eye. Edward, what's that? I don't know. I really don't know.
He told me that Thomas did not survive his injuries.
What the f***? Why would someone do that to me? I think it's nice. What the hell, Edward? I lied in the video. So that's what started this. Yes, I don't know why anyone would do that to the main character. It's just one video, Thomas. Actually, Percy, it's the second. Thomas also lied in Toby the Fan, the arcane merchant. I don't care, James. This is going on too long. Excuse me, Thomas called a man. What's the matter? Asked Thomas. We were supposed to leave 10 minutes ago. Oh dear, groaned Thomas, and he steamed away. What was all that about? Asked Daisy. Thomas is being very stupid about fan content on YouTube. I didn't know that there was fan content of us on YouTube. Where have you been since 2007? I wasn't in the show, remembering it. Entertainment hated me. Oh, yes. I forgot all about that. I'm sorry. That's all right, Percy. Anyway, said Percy, what will we do about Thomas's bullshit? I don't know. What do you think, James? Wait, I've had a plan. And to Thomas they said, you mustn't be rude, you make us ashamed. But Thomas didn't care a bit. Thomas left the coaches at the station and went off to the shed. But Percy and Toby set the switch off to a mine. The fireman went to throw the switch. This was the signal for Percy, Toby, and Daisy. Bumping the cars fiercely, he jerked his driver off the footplate and followed them into the siding. Help! Help! Whistled Thomas. Percy, Toby, and Daisy laughed and laughed. Well, this'll teach you a lesson to shut up about fan content. That's all we want, Thomas. Please. Thomas. Oh no! Cried Percy. Thomas is dead. F***! Cried Toby. What will you do? Asked Daisy. Leave him in mine. laughed Thomas. Phew. I thought you were dead. Well, I tricked you good. F you. Just then, James arrived. Hello, Thomas. Look at this video I found.
This is how Thomas and Friends changed my life, and why I am so thankful for it.
Well, I suppose.
I was wrong.
About fan content
After all,
Now you'll see, Thomas. There are times when fan content isn't such a bad thing after all. Percy, Toby, and Daisy, I'm sorry I was rude. That's all right, Thomas. Why don't we go to the public? What a good idea, agreed Percy. I'll pay for your drinks. James and Daisy, would you like to come too? Oh, yes. Thank you, Thomas. So they went off to the public. Afterwards, Thomas learned not to be so mean about fan content.